All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Now, those of you who know my channel well will know I am obviously not at home. I am on the road, and I will be for the next week, so my videos are going to look like this. Ghetto. But you know what? The content will be just as good because that's just what I do, you know? I just always stress out about people coming to the channel for the very first time and then seeing me standing up with my camera on top of a refrigerator and thinking like, how does this guy have any subscribers, you know? But here's the deal. I still put the content out because I like putting content out. So, you know, it is what it is. So if you like this particular content, subscribe and ring the bell. Just imagine what it looks like when I'm in my studio normally. Anyway, so I want to do a video today about Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards, the outcome, and then specifically who's going to get another shot at, or get the next shot at Kamaru Usman. Actually, geez, almost everybody is going to be another one. Yeah, all three guys. He's already beat all three guys. So anyway, who's going to get another shot at Kamaru Usman? So here's the deal. I think that last night, even though it was obvious, I don't really have much to say about the outcome last night other than Leon Edwards was going to win that fight. I mean, let's just be honest, right? Like that was one of those things. I mean, to try to count how many MMA fights I've seen in my life, or on top of that, just combat fights I've seen in my life is impossible. I mean, thousands, right? And there are fights where, you know, out of the gate, you can just see it's like, okay, this guy's going to win. You know, like this, and this was one of those things where I would bet at that, I mean, 95% Leon Edwards is going to win that fight. I mean, just straight up. And I think everybody knew it. He was completely outclassing Belal Muhammad. And Belal Muhammad's a gangster. He took that fight on incredibly short notice. I mean, think about it. Like, he took that fight on a few weeks' notice after getting his leg pulverized. And it's not like he's fighting some, like, middle-range guy. Leon Edwards is by far the best fighter he's ever faced. And he's coming in under very suboptimal, circumstances. So he gets credit from me regardless, but he was going to lose. And Leon Edwards looked amazing. And then there's just some really bad luck with the thumb. The only thing that I would say is, you know, I'm hearing a lot of people saying about the glove design, and I totally agree. They should change the glove design. I just will note that it wouldn't have mattered for that particular strike because it was his thumb. But nonetheless, I am on board with, use ONE FC gloves or Bellator gloves, whatever. Any of those gloves that curve your fingers. But yeah, as it relates to Kamaru Usman, I think if Leon Edwards would have won really decisively, like if he would have won by highlight, you know, like if he would have won the way that like Dan Ige won last night, like if Leon Edwards came out and just starched him in 22 seconds, then there would be no conversation. You'd have to give it to Leon. But, you know, I kind of consider this equivalent to him having won a very, very dominant decision, you know, as it relates to the criteria of who's Kamaru going to fight next, which does not leapfrog him in front of Colby and Masvidal. But here's the thing. I know he's on a big win streak, but here's the deal. It doesn't matter. Okay. Kamaru, like this is what I wanted to say in the video. You know who's going to decide who Kamaru fights next? Kamaru. Straight up. Kamaru can literally point at the guy he wants to fight, say it online, tell it to Dana, and that's the fight that's going to happen. I mean, I'm like seriously, that is what is going to happen. I mean, the champion. If you get two guys in a division, and the champion wants to fight the guy, and the guy wants the title shot, generally you can make that fight happen, assuming that the guy has like the criteria to deserve a title shot. I mean, like. Obviously it was kind of a weird situation at 185, but like Yoel Romero got a title shot because, Izzy asked for it. And in this case, you got Leon, who's on a super long win streak. You got Masvidal, who's a huge star and was on a win streak aside from, when he fought Kamaru on 7 days notice. Now, I know he was training and all that, but like still, he didn't get a full camp at all. He got a 7 days notice. And to Kamaru's point, he did have a built-in excuse, where... But it's not. It doesn't make it not valid, right? Like it doesn't make it not valid. Now I will say, stylistically, I don't think a lot of people are going to pick Masvidal to win that fight going in. Anything can happen in a fight, but I mean, just in terms of like, when people are thinking about the matchup, I would imagine people would have more confidence in someone else having a better chance of winning that fight. Which, candidly, if you're Usman, that probably makes it the easiest decision, unless he just wants to challenge himself. But he's already beat all the other two guys. He's already beat Colby and Leon. So it's not like there's some unfinished business there for him. He's beat all the guys. So really, the most unfinished business would be against Jorge, because Jorge has, a built-in excuse. Now, either Leon or Colby could say, oh, well, I've improved a lot since we fought. And that's valid. But the only one who actually has a legitimate reason that the first fight wasn't a fully legitimate victory is Jorge, which, so maybe that'll happen. And then on top of which, I think he's probably, the person who poses the least amount of risk, probably, to Usman, at least on paper. But then also, you never know. And then he's going to bring in the most pay-per-views. So to me, I would fight Jorge. And everybody knows I am a massive Masvidal fan. So this is not me talking shit. I'm just talking about on paper, based on the first fight. Yeah. But Colby is a gigantic fight also. That's the thing, is like Leon's on this huge win streak. Last night was obviously suboptimal. But really the point of this video is it's going to be up to Kamaru. Kamaru's going to choose, and that's that. If Jorge or Colby was on a 7-fight win streak and they just had a huge victory, and the champion was trying to duck them, then maybe the UFC would force a guy to fight. But when there's 3 guys who are kind of all right in the same area, Colby, Jorge, and Leon, it's going to be up to Kamaru. Straight up. So my suggestion, if I was Kamaru's manager, would be to fight Jorge next. Biggest pay-per-view, and then it's hard not to take the Colby fight too, because that'll be a huge pay-per-view also. That's the challenge with Leon, is you just know you're gonna make so much less money. But honestly, Leon, you could certainly make the argument that Leon needs to fight one more time before he gets the title shot. I think honestly what you could do is you could have, whoever Kamaru fights, you have the other 2 guys fight, and then the winner of that gets the next title shot. You could do that. But that's a risk for Colby, because he probably thinks he's in line next. So he could just sit around, but then Leon goes and fights someone else and he gets a solid victory. Then maybe he jumps Colby. It's kind of a mess, but ultimately it's going to be up to Kamaru most likely. But anyway, that's what I've got. So subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. Also, Gilbert Burns is still in there and he's a monster. That's the last thing I'll say is Kamaru beat Gilbert Burns. But man, Gilbert is a nightmare against those guys, man. He's a nightmare against those guys. So anyway, he's a really tough matchup. I would love to see him fight either Leon or Colby or Masvidal. I would love to see that fight. So anyway, that's what I got. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Peace.
But I did a video where I broke down the Usman and Burns fight. The reason why that fight was so interesting to me was because they used to be teammates, and try to kind of get a read on their personalities, and it's like, is one of them going to have an edge? And I did this video, and I actually did probably a bunch of videos, but the first one I did, I said, I broke it down like that Burns is going to win, and it got like a shitload of views, right? A shitload of views. And there's something about the idea that Kamaru might have seen that video that is kind of horrifying to me, because I have so much respect for that guy. Like, I think he's such a fucking badass, but I'm like, they got so many views that I'm like, and it made it kind of clickbaity. I was like, oh, look at this footage of Burns dominating Usman. It's total bullshit. Like, it's like a 9-second clip. But I'm like, Jesus, if Kamaru actually saw that video, that is fucking awful.
It's an interesting position to be in a lot of times, I think, especially, in our roles. I do ESPN breakdowns with Brett Okamoto and Mark Ramadi weekly, and it's hard because there are bias to some of my picks, like there's guys that I'm friends with or guys that I've worked with. And I think that, I do make picks a lot of times on, cause I know the people, I know the person. So yeah, it's hard sometimes when, I don't want to give any information away, or I don't want to say anything, so in that role, yeah, it's sometimes difficult for sure.
Yeah. I don't know him. My gauge of him is that he's like the kind of guy that would see that video and he'd fucking remember. So like whenever I get there, he's going to be like, oh hey bro, I did that fucking video.
For sure.
I'll be like, dude, did you see the 5 videos I did after that where I said you're the biggest savage ever?
No, he'll know the one, and he keeps all the receipts.